Hi, I'm Mark Lawson with MorningStar Music Publishers, and we are very pleased today to have a chance to visit with Zeb Highben, Director of Chapel Music at Duke University. We're going to take a few minutes to talk about the new choral series with Duke University. Zeb, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. It's good to be here. Good to see you.
Fill us in on how long you've been at Duke and some of your responsibilities there.
I've only been at Duke now for just under a year. I started July 1st of 2019, and my role as Director of Chapel Music is not that much different from a director of music of a large parish or cathedral music program. I lead our music staff, which includes several full-time artistic and administrative colleagues and staff singers and sometimes organ scholars, guide our annual concert series, and collaborate with the pastors and musicians in worship planning. And then I conduct the Duke Chapel Choir, one of the chapel's 3 choral ensembles.
So tell us a little bit about how the series got started, the idea behind the series.
Duke Chapel has a very long history of commissioning and premiering new music and has been doing that for decades. The chapel's commissioned pieces by Emmylou Deemer and Gilbert M. Martin, more recently Dan Forrest. New hymns also, texts by Brian Wren and Tom Traeger. And there have been composers who have risen out of the chapel choir who have written things for us that have gone on to be published with different publishers. So a choral series gives us an opportunity to kind of focus all of that creative work into one place and share it a little more directly, a little more intentionally.
It's great. Well, what are some pieces that we can look for in the series and maybe some of the composers that you're talking to?
On the way, we've got things by Brandon Boyd and Mark Miller, a new edition of a Baroque era Easter piece by Isabella Leonarda, new edition of a Christmas piece by Samuel Scheidt. We'll have some reissues of some older works, a setting of It Is Well With My Soul by Renee Clausen, some really beautiful prayers on texts by women theologians that Jane Marshall wrote some years ago. We're working with some international poets and composers also. I wrote an Easter piece on a text by Malcolm Guite, UK poet and author, and we're working on a commission with Joanna Marsh, who another fine composer from that tradition. We've already released, I think MorningStar's already released Let All Mortal Flesh Keep Silence,
Yes.
a setting by Chad Fothergill, which he wrote for our CBS Christmas special last fall. It's just a beautiful, haunting setting, choir, congregation, organ, optional strings. So lots of things that both represent the high art performance music that choirs are capable of, simpler things that are nevertheless well crafted that smaller choirs can do, and also music that connects to the hymnody of the church. One of the things I think that's important to point out about the chapel is that a lot of people think because Duke's history as an institution is Quaker and Methodist, and because the Divinity School has affiliation with the Methodist Church, that the chapel is Methodist. We have lots of Methodists in our midst, of course, but we're actually an intentionally ecumenical community, and that is a value we're hoping to reflect in the series and through the music that we perform and publish. We're looking at different hymn genres and styles and liturgical music from various traditions, and anthems that represent global music and pieces by historically underrepresented composers and modern editions of historic repertoire, sort of a whole breadth of diverse peoples and voices and faith traditions that really represent who Duke is as a university and who the chapel is as an institution of faith and learning.
I think that's great. So it's my understanding that the pieces will all be used at some point in Duke Chapel with Duke Chapel choirs. So maybe it'd be good to have a little understanding of the scope of the number of choirs that
Sure.
are at Duke Chapel and kind of how you operate with this many different groups.
We have 3 primary choirs that are sort of choirs of the chapel. There are lots of choirs at Duke University writ large, some of which perform in the chapel occasionally. There's a student Christian a cappella group, there's a gospel choir that will sing in worship on occasion, but our 3 primary choirs are each attached to one of the primary worship services that we do. The chapel choir is our largest group. That's around 80 singers right now that sings for our Sunday morning services. And those services are year-round. They're sort of a mainline Protestant liturgical structure. It would be very recognizable to most folks if they came to worship on a Sunday morning. And the chapel choir sings kind of the repertoire that many American church choirs do, a very broad range of Western and global styles, pieces from all time and style periods. The other two services that we do, Sunday morning services are year-round. The other two services that we do weekly happen during term time. On Sunday afternoons, we have a service of choral evensong that follows the 1662 Book of Common Prayer pretty closely and is led by our evensong singers. And that choir really focuses on the anthems and canticles and responses from the great Anglican Episcopal tradition. On Thursday evenings, we do a service of choral vespers. Candlelight, the chapel is mostly darkened. It's a very peaceful, beautiful way to kind of end the day and almost end the work week. It's not on Friday, it's on Thursday, but close enough. The Vesper service is led by the Vespers Ensemble, and that's sort of a chamber choir that specializes in Renaissance and early Baroque era music. So a lot of polyphony, Palestrina, Scheidt, Schutz, Josquin, composers of that ilk.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, we look forward to working with you on this series, and we wish you the very best. So thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. We're excited to start this and excited to be part of the ECS and MorningStar family.
It's great. Well, have a good day.
Thank you. Take care.